Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Lunchtime Learning Blast. Pete Blank here from the Training Department at the Personnel Board of Jefferson County. Glad you're with us. If you're watching the recording, sit back, relax, take about 15 minutes, get a little bit better, a little bit focused on what you want to do. If you're live, go ahead and put something in the chat, put it in the old Facebook comments. Got a few people watching, appreciate them as we get ready to kind of get into what today's topic is, which is common ethical issues in the workplace. And, you know, there's this great Office episode that I can't show, but if you've ever seen it before, it's a whole thing where they've got to train on ethics, and there's a big discussion of what is ethics and right and wrong and all of that. And we might show that in a future training class, but can't show it here because it'll be pulled down. Because again, ethics got to make sure you have approval to show all of these things that kind of go out there. So let's talk a little bit about one of the original ethical issues that we use in a lot of our training classes, which is a good old-fashioned Heinz Dilemma. Do y'all remember the Heinz Dilemma? A lot of times this is used in colleges, it's used in psychology classes or leadership classes. Let me go ahead and share just a little bit, and you can kind of work your way through this. Okay, if you've never heard this before, this was a well-known. Here's one well-known version by Lawrence Kohlberg, talked about moral development. Here's how it goes. Heinz's wife, Heinz is a guy. Heinz's wife was near death, and her only hope was a drug that had been discovered by a pharmacist who was selling it at an exorbitant price. Now, the drug only cost about $20,000 to make, but the pharmacist was selling it for $200,000. Now, Heinz wanted to save his wife's life, and the only way he could do it is by raising some money. So he raised some money. He got about 50 grand, and insurance is not going to pay for the rest of the difference. So he still owed about 150. So he went to the pharmacist and said, hey, let me offer you 50 grand for this. And the pharmacist denied it, said, no, I'm charging $200,000 for it. Heinz said, listen, I'll pay the rest later. Please give me the drug. Help me save my wife's life. Still, the pharmacist refused. In desperation, Heinz considered stealing the drug. Would it have been wrong or unethical for him to do that? Should Heinz have broken into the store to steal the drug for his wife? Why or why not? And we love throwing this out there. We've got some training classes around leadership roundtables where we have really good discussions. And you know, this is one of those classic moral dilemmas that, you know, people tend to have black and white views on, but then as you start questioning and pushing back and asking questions, they may say, well, I'm not so sure, because again, is it an obedience issue? Is it a self-interest issue? I don't want to go to jail. I want to save my wife's life. Are you a law and order person? Rules are rules. Stealing is wrong. You just can't do that. That's unethical. Is it more of a human rights issue? Everybody has a right to life. And how come this guy's charging 200 grand for this thing that only costs 20,000? So hers is more important than his, but this guy has a right to run his business the way that he has. He's got a right to compensation, you know. Is saving a human life more fundamental than the property rights of another person? Maybe the pharmacist bought too big a house, so he's got to charge too much to pay his mortgage. So now by me stealing it, I'm taking. Listen, this is great stuff to think about. Luckily and hopefully none of you have these issues in the workplace of this magnitude. But it does kind of tie into our whole topic of ethical behavior and ethics today. So what I want to do is I've got 5 or 6 things I want you to think about today, because those of you who are working, whether you are a manager or a non-manager or an individual contributor, you're going to have some of these challenges, you know, in the workplace. They're going to come up probably more than you think. And what I want you to do is have a couple different lenses today. Okay, one of your lenses is going to be me as a person, me as an employee. You know, John Maxwell does a lot of trainings, and he always talks about, what do people do talking about business ethics and personal ethics? Either you have ethics or you don't. There's no difference between work ethics and personal ethics. But I want you to keep your whole mindset on you. But then also, if you're a supervisor or you're a manager or you're a leader or you're a CEO or you're a university president or small business owner, and you're running your own shop, you're running your own department, are you encouraging your employees to act unethically? Are you encouraging your employees to take shortcuts? So again, do we blame them when you're encouraging this type of behavior by maybe some of your actions and your requests? So anyhow, let's kind of roll through some of these. We don't want to take up all of your lunchtime today. Again, if you are watching, thanks for kind of being with us and sharing some of your thoughts here. So again, like I said, first thing I want to talk about is just leadership. Okay, unethical leadership is wrong. I don't even know why we have to have a training session for this. Unethical leadership can come in a bunch of different forms. Are you manipulating the data? Are you changing information around on spreadsheets? Are you taking inappropriate gifts? Are you telling your employees to do one thing and you do something else? Do you tell them, oh, it's unethical to take home company supplies. It's unethical to take long lunches. It's unethical. And then you do all the same stuff. So leaders, whether you're in a supervisory role or not, all of us can consider ourselves leaders. We just got to make sure that we're always doing the right thing when it comes to leadership. All right, the second one, and I put EEOC up here. What I mean by this is just general discrimination and harassment stuff. Now, there's a legal side to this. We want to make sure that we are providing a safe, inclusive environment based on the law. Because there are laws that are out there. There's the Civil Rights Act, there's Title VII, there's all these things that we need to follow from a legal perspective. But at the end of the day, it's really more of an ethical issue. It's really, are you offering the same to person A that you're offering to person B? Are you harassing person A but not harassing person B? Do you have a group thing towards a certain type of employee, whether that's based on race, gender, skin color, all those types of things? And so, yes, it could be a legal issue, but a lot of it is also just basically, unethical. And so you want to be real careful with that and make sure you're always treating people and doing things the right way, not just from a legal perspective, but ethics as well. Let's talk about technology. Again, you talk about loopholes. Technology has opened a bunch of loopholes. And if you joined me late, I was kind of sharing one of them. I buy a SiriusXM subscription. I love it. It's for my personal use. I don't buy the business one. I buy the personal one. And so to stream that on my laptop as some background music at the beginning, well, that would be wrong. But what if I just have my phone here under the microphone playing it through there? Is that unethical? I'm not streaming it. It's just like any other noise that I would tell myself, a car horn in the background, things like that happens to be coming through. Is that a loophole, or am I physically, but mentally being unethical? These are things we have to think about, again, in the workplace when it comes to technology. Hey, we're going to block all your social media sites because it's wrong. It's unethical to be on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. You're stealing time from the company. So we block everybody. What do employees do? I'll just sit here and do it on my phone, So is it a safety issue as far as I don't want stuff being downloaded? Absolutely. Your IT department may want to block a few things. Some of the struggles, though, come with, is it really unethical? Because this whole idea of time theft, I'll give you my 2 cents on this. I no longer subscribe into the belief of you have a work life and you have a home life, and never the two shall meet. I don't believe that anymore. I believe that life is now life, and you do some personal things at work and you do some work things at home. And especially with this new world of remote work and being on Zoom meetings and all this stuff. So the ethics get really murky, because back in the day, this could be even 5-10 years ago, how dare you go online to pay your bills? You're paying your bills at work on a company computer? How dare you? And nowadays it's like, yeah, I'm paying my bills on the company computer, but when I get home on the company computer, when I'm not getting paid, I'm also researching training for class tomorrow, and I'm looking up articles. And there's this big sort of gray area around this, and technology has opened up a lot of this. So we need to be real careful. And again, what's your social media policy? What exists? I'm not giving anybody carte blanche to do whatever you want, and because you might get terminated. What I'm saying is technology has opened up the door for a lot of people to sort of be in this gray area of ethical behavior that we have to be careful with. What about quality? Quality can be an ethical challenge for us as well. There's trying to be real careful not to mention too many companies, but there are some fast food restaurants. There are some I've seen stories recently, it's either on 60 Minutes or CNBC, about how companies, because prices are going up so high for, let's say, a 6-ounce item in the grocery store, well, if that price keeps going up, people aren't going to buy it. So they keep the price the same, but lower the amount to 4 ounces. Okay. Next time you're at the grocery store, you're like, hey, this used to have 3 chicken cutlets. Now it only has 2 chicken cutlets, but it's the same price. Is that wrong? Is that unethical? Am I changing the quality? Am I changing? And we'll get into marketing in a second, but there's tough times. So we're going to lower our grade of beef. You used to pay this, used to pay that. So the quality of the product that you put out there for your guests, for your employees, for your customers, that can get into an ethical challenge as well. Here's the marketing thing. We've got to be real careful with this because, again, the whole bait and switch comes into ethics. The whole idea of come on into this shop and buy this. Oh, we're out, but buy this instead. Is that good business sense? Is that strategic selling? Or is that just unethical marketing and PR? We're seeing a lot of this around employee salaries right now. And I'm lucky that I work in local government, because all of the drama around salaries and what people pay and what you pay men versus women and all that doesn't exist in local government, or for the most part does not exist. There's a line of what the job is graded at and how much you get paid and what the range is. And those are, if you're a teacher, if you work in, local government or anything like that, anybody can find anybody's salary. The range is out there. And now you're seeing all these private companies going, this isn't, how come we're not doing this? I think the state of New York, or a city in New York, just came out and said they're going to start putting out there, here's what the salary ranges are, because people can give more money or less money for the same job to different people based on age, race, seniority, ethnicity. And I'm not saying, I'm not placing a good or bad value proposition on that. What I'm saying is, you don't want to be unethical and say, oh, the job pays this, but then you come in and it pays something else. You don't want to tell people this is what we offer, but then when they come in, do something different. So again, don't compromise on quality, don't compromise on marketing, and figure this remote work out, people. We have to figure this out. Now, again, working in local government, it's very difficult for police. It's very difficult for fire. It's very difficult for healthcare. I mean, there's certain roles. Again, when I worked at Disney, if you're a frontline worker in a Disney theme park, you can't work remote. Yeah, I'm going to load the Dumbo attraction remotely. I mean, there's certain jobs we have to be there, but there are other jobs out there that, we just don't want you to work remote because we don't trust that you're working, because we think you'll be more unethical at home. I know many of you, and if I asked you to put this in the chat or the comments, might agree with me here. I think I'm more ethical at home. I think I'm stealing less time. There's less water cooler talk. There's more work going on for 2 reasons. Number one, there's less distractions, but also number 2, I feel obligated to my employer, who is paying me to work at home, to make sure I'm providing a hard day's work for a hard day's pay. So interestingly enough, for me, I feel more ethical in a remote environment because I want to prove myself. I want you to know I'm not taking this for granted. And I don't want to give any sense of impropriety. I could drive through the dry cleaners at lunch, but I don't want to, because if someone sees me out, they might think poorly about me. Whereas if I'm working in the office and I happen to take a longer lunch than normal, we don't think twice about it. So anyhow, there's a whole, again, we're getting very gray into remote work. And finally, health and safety, y'all. We cannot be unethical around health and safety. Where I work in our building, we've got a lot of construction going on right now. There's a lot of safety harnesses. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I know I've got a construction picture up here, but I'm talking everything from COVID protocols to, safety as far as, do people feel physically safe and mentally safe in the workplace? Do their elevators our elevators making a lot of noise right now? Do our elevators sound safe? Feel safe? Do we want to make sure, hang on a second, I've got a couple things here that I wrote down, wanted to make sure I covered. Fall protections, scaffolding, electrical, wiring, general requirements, just feeling safe. We never want to put our employees in a thing where they feel like they're unsafe, or I go back to my theme park examples. I would never want to put people on an attraction at a theme park where I felt, well, I wouldn't ride this myself. I don't feel safe doing this. Super duper important. So what can you do as we wrap this up today? What can we do, y'all? Number one, know what the laws are. So let's start there. And let's do laws and policies, y'all. Okay. What are the laws around EEOC, harassment, discrimination, all of that? But then what are your policies also? What's your social media policy? What's your work from home policy? What's your can I be paying my bills at work policy? Know all of that. And then set up the expectations. If you're a leader, manager, supervisor, are you a zero tolerance? You will not get on the computer to do Facebook. Well, I'm on Facebook Live right now. And this is a learning opportunity. And people may be on their phones or at work right now on Facebook, learning some skills, getting better. How is that unethical? They're not watching dog. I should put up some cute dog videos or cat videos. Do that. Also, training is important. We've got a class here at the personnel board about employee training, about ethics, making ethical decisions. This shouldn't be a 15-minute thing. This should be, the people, there's constant ethical updates and training because of the laws, and just be consistent, y'all, especially if you consider yourself a leader, no matter what your title is. Hypocrisy is the biggest struggle to leadership. And you can't say one thing and do something else. And again, ethics changes, ethics moves a little bit. A lot of you will disagree with that and say that you have them or you don't. But when technology changes and work life changes and this changes, what you thought might be ethical may not be ethical anymore. So again, it's kind of, like I said, in my mind, in my opinion, it's kind of a gray area. There is a true right and wrong, but some of these things make you sort of raise your eyes and question and say, why is that bad? And let's get to the bottom of it. So consistency is super duper important. I hope you enjoy